Hey, everybody, welcome to church. Awesome. I'm glad you're here. I don't know, just kind of that video. I was just waiting for that moment, waiting for the moment. You know what I'm saying? And I'm glad you joined us for church today. I want to look in the camera, say a big hello to all of our locations, gathering around what we call Journey City, our region, and in every room that we're in, and then all of you joining us online. Glad you're here. If you're here for the first time, a big welcome to you. Very glad you're here as well. We are in week 2 of a series that we're calling Through the Lens, and we're looking at how screens, our phones, our tablets, our smart TVs are impacting and shaping us spiritually, and how we can reclaim our attention and restore our souls. And I'll let you know right up front that this is not a soapbox against screens or social media or anything like that, but I think we need to look at it wisely wherever we are in our spiritual journey and ask some probing questions about it, because there's a lot of distraction in our world. Anybody notice? I get distracted easily. Anybody else get distracted easily? What were we talking about? So happens to me all the time. I wish I could keep my attention focused where it needs to be, but so often I can't. This is embarrassing, but this literally happened last night. I sat down to watch a show with my daughter and her friend, to watch a baking show because I love my daughter. Hey, that is a reason. And I didn't think she'd notice I was over there kind of on my phone, while the baking show was playing. And at one point she looked over, she said, "Dad, are you watching?" And I thought I would be smart. And I was like, well, I'm like Gen Z. I can do both. And she said, "Did you notice the 2 Gen Z people in the room weren't doing both?" I put my phone away, and here I am preaching about it. All right, so I think we all fight distractions, right? I'm not alone in this, and we have so many digital distractions in our world. It's not new, it's been building, but it seems to just keep building. Notifications chiming, emails accumulating, feeds refreshing, emojis and GIFs and memes, and all of the digital things. We have endless ads to click out of, and TikTok videos we gotta watch, and Snapchat streaks we have to maintain, and Insta posts and YouTube shorts. That group chat, you don't know how you got in. Anybody in a group chat, you don't know how you got in it. You're like, I don't know half these people, and I don't like a third of them. Don't even know how I'm in this group chat. Messages that keep popping up, trailers that play automatically when you open your streaming app. You have to check the weather. How many of us have this incessant urge to check the weather? Don't even know why. We're like, oh, look, 23 minutes later, still partly cloudy. Big news, big news. You gotta check the news. Speaking of the news, gotta check your stocks. You need to check Zillow to see how much your neighbor's house is worth. And you gotta check ESPN to see what's gonna happen to Jalen Carter. Am I right? Gotta know, gotta know. Distractions, so many distractions. 3 months ago, I mentioned this a few weeks ago. Some of you got a little upset with me because you're like, you said this, but then you never showed us a picture. So we brought home a new puppy. Okay, you haven't even seen him yet. All right, now you've seen him. All right. So all the dog people are like, oh. All the cat people are like, what? And all the non-animal people are like, what is wrong with you? So I get it, but this is our new puppy. His name is Winston, and he's adorable, which is basically all he has going for him. I'm just saying, no other redeeming qualities at this point. We're working on it, but a few weeks in, we realized, okay, we've got a 7-pound dog with a 207-pound attitude. So as cute as he looks, he thinks he's in charge. And he tries to bolt out the door in front of us. He walks us. If he could, he's tiny, but he doesn't know it. And he tries to walk us instead of letting us walk him. He tries to bite us. Sometimes if he's sleepy and we try to move him, he'll try to bite us. Right? That's not happening. So we're working on that. He jumps on our furniture to growl and bark at our other dog, who has reminded us over and over again with her eyes that she did not ask for a brother. She looks at it, she has this look on her face like, why? Everything was so good. And so we're having to teach him, Winston, no. Sometimes we call him Napoleon. If you know, you know. But we're having to teach him, no, you're not in charge. That's not how this works, not how the house runs. We are in charge, so we go out the door first. So we started doing this. He can't go out the door ahead of us. I didn't know that was a way of him saying, I'm first. Like, no, you're not. He has to sit for 5 seconds before we feed him. Sit very still. He has to sit before he goes out or comes in. He cannot jump on the couch and assert his dominance. If he bites us, he gets banished. puppy time out. We put him in puppy time out. And he's like, ooh, you know, that was my best Winston impression. And the whole reason is we're trying to communicate. We want to have like a good life together for a long time, so we got to communicate early on. You don't run the show. How many of us have a phone? Anybody have a phone? All of our locations, we just take it out, hold it up. If you got a phone, just hold it up if you got a phone. If you didn't bring your phone, see if you can grab your neighbors real quick. Okay? Your phone is not a puppy, but it does act like one sometimes. Am I right? I mean, think about it. It's always barking, always demanding, always distracting. So who's really in charge? Us or our devices? And if we're gonna be in charge, if we're gonna be in charge of our lives, how do we reclaim our focus? Okay, so we're talking about something I know is super practical in some ways, but it also has really significant spiritual implications. And I wanna show you this from the Bible. Here's what we read in Hebrews 12. Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a huge crowd of witnesses to the life of faith, and I'll talk about what that means more in a few minutes, but let us strip off every weight that slows us down, especially the sin that so easily trips us up, and let us run with endurance the race God has set before us. All right, any runners? I always talk, we got my dog people. Where are my running people? How many running people, runners? Show of hands, runners. Okay, got a few runners. I know some of us only run if somebody's chasing us. And I get that, it's not for everybody. But that is the picture here, running, this race that God has given each of us, a purpose that he has for our lives. God has a purpose for your life, a race that you are called to run. He has a purpose for each one of us, and whether we run physically or not, that's optional. But running this spiritual race well is imperative. I mean, it's just non-negotiable, and God has given us a race. It's a long race, not a sprint. It's a marathon. You can't judge how the race is going just on any given day. You got to look at the big picture of your life. I've got to look at the big picture of my life. And Hebrews says, this book in the New Testament, that when we're running this race, it is easy to get distracted. We get slowed down because we're carrying weights that we weren't intended to carry. We get tripped up, sidelined by sin, misplaced priorities, missing the mark of God's word, which we all do. And those things weigh us down, slow us down, and they trip us up. They can send us sprawling sometimes, and we lose our pace and our place in the race God has given us to run. And I think one of the other reasons that the writer of Hebrews maybe was not as familiar with, but it's a reason we struggle to run our race as well, and that's because these days we are so busy scrolling other people's races. And our focus is not necessarily on the race that God has given us to run. So Hebrews says we are surrounded by a huge crowd of witnesses. And if you read the chapter right before this, there's actually a list, not an exhaustive list, but there's a list of many men and women who ran the race of their lives well because they stayed focused on God for the long haul. No matter what came, what went, what was popular, what wasn't, they stayed focused on God. They were not perfect people, not by any stretch, but they persevered. They kept running. Who we surround ourselves with matters. Did you know that? It matters so much, which is where our digital world can get tricky, because the crowd that's surrounding us at any given moment includes the influencers we follow and the accounts that we visit and the content that we consume, the videos we watch, the sites that we go to. Some of that builds our faith. There's some stuff that I watch and listen to, builds up my faith. And there's other stuff that can weigh us down. And then there's still other stuff that can actually feed our sin, our sinful nature. It draws us away from God's best. It distracts us from God's purpose for our lives. So the question becomes, am I surrounding myself with witnesses to the life of faith? All of us are surrounded. Even if you're like the world's biggest introvert, you love to be alone. In our digital world, we're constantly on. We're constantly surrounded. The question is, are we surrounded by witnesses to the life of faith? Do we have the right influences around us? That's the why behind J groups, small groups in our church where people connect throughout the week to do life together. Not just a church program, it is a lifeline. And it's a way of making sure we've got the right people around us. Parents, it's why getting your kids and their friends and your students and their friends into environments like Journey Kids and Journey Students, it's why that matters so much, so that they're surrounded by the right witnesses. One of our leaders told me, he's a little late this morning getting to church. He said, we had so many kids sleep over at our house and go to church with us today. We didn't have enough vehicles to get them all to church. We had to figure out a plan. Man, that's a good problem to have, right? Bribe those kids with pizza and sleepovers. Do whatever you got to do to get them to church so they're surrounded by the right crowd of witnesses. So we're surrounded by these witnesses, but notice what holds us back. As we're running this race, attempting to grow, wherever you are spiritually, whether you're new to this, been following Jesus for a while, many years in, decades in, like I am, to my walk with Jesus, we're all still needing to grow. And we're trying to run this race, and two things hold us back. Weight, which is something that is not necessarily wrong or immoral, but it's just very distracting. And sin, which is something that is wrong, is immoral. It's something that God states in his word is not his best for us or our best for him. It's the stuff that separates us from closeness with God. And if we allow it to, it will eventually lead us to a place that deep down we don't want to go. So we got weight and we got sin. And we talked about sin in our last series on integrity in August, how to live when no one's looking. So I want to talk about the weight thing. It's really what this series is about, because scrolling, gaming, binge watching, chatting, these are not necessarily sins. But there's an opportunity cost. And here's what that means. What am I not doing while I am doing those things? And what kind of shaping or formation is happening in my life? Here's another way to put it. Who's deciding my direction? The Father, which is how God refers to himself, how Jesus referred in his humanity to God. Who's deciding my direction, the Father or my feet? And I think that's just such an important question. No shame. It's not intended to provoke shame, but it is intended for all of us to go, okay, I really do get to choose. So how do we do this? Well, when our lens is trends, we're gonna stay distracted. When we're always reacting to whatever is the newest trend, we chase what's temporary. But when our lens is truth, we can stay focused. We can live for what lasts. And here's how we do that in a distracting world. We do this by keeping our eyes on Jesus. We just sang about it in worship. He's the champion who initiates and perfects our faith. So he starts it and he finishes it. One translation of these words says he's the author and the finisher of our faith. He starts the story, he guides the story, he completes the story. God is the original content creator. He is the original influencer, the very first one. And he wants to speak to us. He wants to get our attention with his power and love. And he wants to get content to us, but not just information. He wants us to experience him, to experience his presence, to experience his reality, to experience his guidance. And the primary way that God influences us is through the person of Jesus. Now, Jesus is God, but he is also human. He came as a human being, and Jesus is God's message. Jesus is the sum of all of God's content and influence. Jesus said it this way, if you've seen me, you've seen the Father. Because Jesus is the revelation of who God is. He is our leader and Lord. He's the one who forgives our sins and rescues our souls, the starting line and the finishing line of our faith. And not only that, but Jesus is our example for how to run this race, which is why we keep our eyes on him. Here's what Jesus knew, and you can look at his life, and he lived this out. Jesus knew that whatever is currently being hyped in the world's feed will fade, but the Father's will last forever. And that's why you see Jesus always like, let's do the Father's will. Man, Jesus, everybody in this town loves you. Let's stay here. Nope. And do the Father's will. And Jesus, everybody here wants to kill you. Gonna do the Father's will. He didn't follow the trends up and down on this. Today I'm popular, today I'm not. He followed the Father's will and he ran his race. So around the same time we got a puppy, I started running. I think I was just trying to escape. If you're new to the church, whenever I do something athletic, I brag a lot. Because I don't do very many athletic things. And I'm one of those people, I'm not inherently motivated to exercise. I know some of you you're like, oh, I cannot wait to exercise. I've never said that. But I know I got to take care of my body, so I tend to change like exercise plans pretty consistently to keep myself motivated. And a few months ago, I started running. I don't know how long I'll run, but right now I'm actually enjoying it. And here's what I'm learning, 2 things. Number 1, have you ever heard of the runner's high? There are different kinds of runner's highs. I'm talking about the legal one. Okay, this is this feeling you get. You've been running for a little while, and then you start to feel like this euphoric feeling, like I could do this forever. That's real. A few weeks into running, I was like thinking, man, wow, nobody told me. Now, 13 minutes later, I was like, But the runner's high is real. That's number 1. Number 2, I never, ever experienced it in the first couple miles. First couple miles, I do not feel the runner's high. I feel like death. Every time I run, about quarter of a mile in, I'm like, why? Why am I doing this? This is the worst. It's the runner's low. And what I've learned, though, is, okay, a few miles in, there's a runner's high, but I'm gonna have to endure the runner's low in order to get to the runner's high. Some of you sometimes are jealous of people who are flourishing spiritually. You don't realize they've been running for 20 years. And they just never stopped, and they never gave up on God. And eventually he rewards their persistence. And this is where endurance comes in. Remember that verse we read earlier in Hebrews? Let us run with endurance the race God has set before us. Not the race that someone else has set before us. Not the race that God has set before somebody else. But the race that God has set before us. God has a race for you. He has a race for me. He has a purpose in mind for our lives. And keeping our eyes on Jesus is the only way to run that race with endurance. And it means resisting the urge to give in to distractions, especially when we're not feeling the runner's high. So sometimes we feel it. Maybe you felt it a few minutes ago in worship. Maybe you've had moments in a message when the lights came on. Maybe in your time with God, or just sitting around with friends or family who are filled with gratitude, and you're like, oh, God is so good. But if you're like me, you've also had times like, why am I doing this? Why am I reading the Bible right now? It's not doing anything for me. Why am I praying? I don't even feel God. Why did I come to church? It's like I just can't get through to him. Let us run with endurance the race that God has set before us. And here's what happens many times, and it's so easy in our world today, that sometimes we use social media or doom scrolling as a way to tune out our spiritual anxiety, our sadness, our stress. But in the process, we miss out on what God wants to speak to us through what we feel. And so instead of going and sitting quietly with the Father and saying, hey, God, I'm angry, I'm disappointed, I'm excited, I'm overwhelmed, we put that energy into this virtual experience that really can't feed our souls the way the Father can. And in the process, what happens is we miss out on being present with friends and families, on being present with our parents, with our kids. We miss out on real in-person relationships. We miss out on getting back to peace in our souls. And that's why the question today, week 2 of the series, is who's deciding our direction, the Father or our feed? Now, God can use digital content to give us directions. It's happened for me. There are messages that we watch and posts that we see that inspire us, but the point is always to get closer to Jesus, not more distracted by other things. Because Jesus is the one who carried our brokenness to a cross. He's the one who forgives our sin. He's the one who gives us power to live a new kind of life. And so the goal of anything in my life is to get me more passionate about, focused on, committed to Jesus. So how do we do this? How do we actually keep our eyes on Jesus in a world that is so distracting? Well, it starts when you realize that you are in charge of your digital life. Here's how you run your race when you realize you're in charge. Number one, strip off what slows you down. Strip off what slows you down. Every January, we take the first part of the year, 21 days from the first Sunday in January, 21 days of prayer and fasting, going without food or taking some time away from what we usually engage in to get closer to God. It's a powerful way to start our year. If you've never experienced it, it's coming up in a few months. It's life-changing. We always hear how people's direction shifts during 21 days. And in 2021, I decided as part of that I would take those 21 days off social media. It was January 2021. I am 4.5 years into a 21-day social media fast. Didn't intend that, and I just haven't gone back. Now, I want to be very clear. I am not anti-social media. Our church uses social media. I think it can have a very powerful place in our lives when the content is inspiring and informing and encouraging and challenging in the right sorts of ways. But I just started to realize, for me, my screen time was slowing me down from connecting with God and other people. And maybe that's not happening for you. But what I would say is if comparison or anxiety or materialism or just the volume of information that you're consuming is starting to weigh you down or trip you up spiritually, strip some of it off. Because you're in charge. You get to decide how much of my attention does this get. And this is not just about social media or the digital world. Anything in your life that is beginning to compete with your attention being on God, strip it off. You know, there's a reason we say pay attention. It costs you something. And it may cost you something to pay attention to God, but the reward will be worth it. So here's a new lens. Does this habit, this app, this fallback, this place I go, help me run the race that God is calling me to run? What am I not paying attention to because I'm paying so much attention to this? Remember, you're in charge. We are crate training Winston, our puppy. I don't know if you ever crate trained a dog. Sounds meaner than it is. But what this means is he has a crate. And every day at certain times, he goes to the crate, whether he likes it or not. And at first, he for sure didn't like it. It's my best impression of a puppy in distress. He's like, why are you doing this to me? And we didn't stop. We're like, we're doing this to you. We don't really have this conversation quite this way, but we're doing this to you because you are not in charge. This is our house. And we want to have like a long, happy life with you, but you got to get your act together for that to happen. So this is part of the process. I would like to invite you to consider crate training your phone. So what does that mean? It means every day, certain times during the day, it goes in a drawer. And you leave it somewhere else when you're with your family or you're headed to bed or you're spending time in the presence of God or you're just reading a great book or you're just staring at the sky. And you put it on DND, which means do not distract. Strip off what slows you down because you are in charge. Not your device, not that update. You're in charge. Here's the second thing. Surround yourself with witnesses. Surround yourself with witnesses. We need real people in our lives. In-person interactions with people going the same direction spiritually. Witnesses to cheer us on. I want to encourage you. We're going to start a new semester of groups, as I mentioned, in a few weeks. Now's the time to register a group, lead a group, create some space for people. And I know that many of us are busy. I am busy, just so you know. I told someone recently, people used to ask how you doing. I said, I'm really busy. I'm in a busy season. I started telling people I'm kind of in a busy 18-year season. Because I just realized I'm always going to be busy. We're all busy. One of our leaders shared with me after the first gathering today, I preached this message, and she said, I was early on, I was telling the person who was mentoring me here at the Journey, I really am too busy to have like this long time with God or to lead a group. And the leader said, oh, awesome. Would you mind if I looked at your screen time? That's a good mentor right there. She found out she was spending 4 hours a day scrolling. She's like, I think I could probably reallocate some of that time. And I want to challenge you today. I get it, we're all busy. Make sure you're busy with the right things for the right reasons with the right people. Surround yourself with witnesses. Parents, surround your kids and students with the right crowd of witnesses. Because you have this responsibility and this ability to change the dynamic for them. And here's the third one. Reclaim your focus. Strip off what slows you down, surround yourself with witnesses, and reclaim your focus. How do you run with endurance? You keep your eyes on Jesus. Say, how do I keep my eyes on Jesus? Start your day with Jesus. Can I challenge all of us, wherever you are in your spiritual journey, before you check social, before you check the news, your texts, your emails, your apps, first part of your day, check in with God. Put him first. There's something powerful about saying, God, you are first in my day. First in my week, that's why we gather like this. First in my relationships, that's why we connect. First with my time, that's why we serve. First with my finances, why we give. God, you're first. So start your day with Jesus. Spend time with the Father. Practice a slot and spot, a time on your calendar and a place you go to read the Bible and pray every day. You say, I try to read the Bible and I wasn't getting anything out of it. That's the runner's low. Keep reading. I've been reading the Bible for 33 years. And after 33 years, I have some days where I'm like, why, Ezekiel? Is that okay? How long was the plot of land outside the temple? 8 1/3 miles, okay. And then I have other days where I'm like, oh, God, let your word transform me. That's so powerful. And here's what I've decided. I want to have a close relationship with God. So if it matters to him, it matters to me. 8 1/3 miles long. Wow, Ezekiel, that's awesome. I'm not exactly sure why that matters, but it's in God's book, so it matters. So I'm going to keep reading through the lows and the highs. And then end your day with Jesus. Before you go to sleep, kneel before the Father. Put that phone somewhere else. Kneel before the Father. Sit on the edge of your bed. End the day with Jesus. Ask God to point out where you ran well that day. In fact, before you do that, start out thanking him for the day. Thank him for all the things he did. When I do this, sometimes I realize I didn't recognize some things God did, but as I start to think about the day, my new thing is to tell God, thank you for overdoing it. You could have just let me live through the day, but you gave me pizza. You could have given me any wife, but you gave me Susie. And if you know Susie, you know. You could have put me anywhere, but you put me in this neighborhood. You've been good to me. Thank him for all he's done. And then ask him to point out where you ran well. You need affirmation. Some of us are starving for affirmation. That's not wrong. We're just putting our cup under the wrong faucet. Go to the Father and say, where did I run well today, God? And let your Father say, that moment when you almost reacted but you didn't, I'm proud of you. That moment when you let someone into traffic, this happened for me 8 years ago. God affirmed me. Let him affirm where you ran well, and then let him point out where you got tripped up. And then throughout the day, just keep going back to God. Reclaim your focus. Remember Winston, our puppy who sometimes thinks he's the boss? So sometimes our digital devices act that way. They demand our attention. They beep and chime and buzz. But you're in charge. So teach your phone, your tablet, your TV, to sit quietly for a while before you feed it. If it barks a lot, use that little switch that makes it stop. Put it away for a few hours every day. And when it tries to bite you, when it tempts you to compromise on God's values for your life, don't be afraid to banish it for a while. Your phone isn't bad, it just has no business being in charge of your focus. Nothing else has any business being in charge of your focus more than Jesus. So strip off what slows you down. Follow what builds your faith. Unfollow what tears it down. Surround yourself with witnesses. Gather, connect, and serve. Go to Plugged In at your location. We all need relationships. People cheering us on. Get your kids and students into healthy environments. Journey kids and Journey students. And reclaim your focus. Read God's word. Commit yourself to giving God your daily attention. And when in doubt, come back to this question. Who's deciding your direction? The Father or your feet? What can it mean for our families, our own lives, our faith, the next generation, if we became a community of faith that was just passionately focused on Jesus? Our kids could grow up knowing God. People who are searching could come streaming into our locations, finding hope. And we would be transformed. Keep your eyes on Jesus. And when it comes to your devices, remember, you're in charge. If you receive that today, would you lift your hand all over our locations if you'd say, I want God's help in that area? Now let me pray it over us. Open your heart up to God. Father, we honor you today. We just want to say thanks. Breath in our lungs. Some of us are going through really hard things, but you're still here and you're faithful. And some of us have been very distracted, God. It's so easy. You didn't come to shame us today, but you are standing at the door of our lives. Help us pay attention. Give you our focus. And Jesus, transform our lives as we run our race. And while you let God speak to you for a moment more, maybe you've been trying to block out the questions you have, the uncertainties about your future without God and without his direction in your life. Maybe you're just going through the motions, or that's the way it feels to you. You're doing the things, but you don't know why. You don't know what you're here for. Can I tell you that God has a purpose for your life, and it starts with knowing him. And the way to know him is to surrender your life to Jesus, who reveals all that God is. Through his death on a cross and his resurrection, he made a way for you to be right with God. You don't have to wake up every day trying to just block out that existential question. Who am I? Why am I here? What is this all about? Jesus is the answer. And if you want today to be your day that you begin following him, I'd love to lead you in a simple prayer to take that step. So I want everyone to join me again. Just open your heart up to God. And if that's you today, you would say, today's my day. Whisper out a prayer of faith, something like this. Jesus, today I surrender my life to you. I believe you died to forgive my sins, and that you can give me the power to live a new kind of life. Save me today. I'm yours. And if that's you, while everyone around you stays focused on God, if you would say, I want to be included in that prayer, I'm putting my faith in Jesus. I want you to lift your hand. Just hold it up high. All of our rooms, yes. Yes, it's amazing. Yeah, Hockessin, Middletown. Here in the room at Newark. It's awesome. Thank God. Thank God. Thank God. Online, you can type the word faith in the comments. Then Journey, would you help me? We're gonna wrap up in a couple of minutes, but as we get ready to do that, would you put your hands together with me? Let's give Jesus all the praise.